Raider Nation, we need to have a real conversation right now because there's something going on in Las Vegas that's got a lot of people on edge. And no, I'm not talking about some off-field drama or a flashy free agent rumor. I'm talking about something that could have a massive impact on how this Raiders defense performs in the upcoming season. I'm talking about Christian Wilkins, the big-time defensive tackle that was supposed to come in and anchor the middle of this unit. The guy who was meant to make life easier for Max Crosby, help free up the edge rushers, and bring some real presence to that front four. But there's a cloud hanging over his status, and it's not going away. Wilkins, as most of you know, underwent surgery for a Lisfranc injury back in early October of last year. Now, that's not some simple tweak. This is a serious foot injury. The kind that can linger, disrupt careers, and totally derail what should be prime years for a defensive lineman. The scary part is that despite months of rehab and work, the news coming out of Raiders OTAs is less than comforting. Pete Carroll, now in charge of the Silver and Black, made it clear in his comments that Wilkins is not where the team hoped he'd be at this point in the offseason. He said Wilkins has been putting in the work, showing up early, grinding every day, doing everything asked of him, but he's still not ready. And when a head coach says something like, "We're still working on it," this many months after, surgery, that's a red flag. Let's be honest here. Teams don't have to be transparent about injuries during this time of year. They can keep things vague, play things close to the chest, especially when it comes to high-impact players. So when Carroll goes public with that level of detail, you better believe there's real concern behind the scenes. Now, some folks online tried to stir the pot a little by suggesting Wilkins had been spotted in a walking boot. That got blown out of proportion pretty fast. Turns out he wasn't in a boot, hasn't been during OTAs, which is at least a small relief. But even with that cleared up, the reality remains. This foot injury is still a factor, and the coaching staff knows it. Here's why this is such a big deal. In terms of defensive importance, Wilkins is second only to Max Crosby for this Raiders squad. This entire defensive scheme under Patrick Graham is built around generating pressure with just 4 guys. No fancy blitz packages, no gambling on heavy pressure looks. The idea is to dominate the trenches with a front 4, disrupt, timing, collapse pockets, and let the back end of the defense do their job. And if Wilkins isn't right, if he can't go out there and consistently eat up space, occupy double teams, and free up Crosby to do what he does best, that puts the entire philosophy at risk. I asked the Nation earlier this week to be real about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about Wilkins and this foot injury? For me, I was sitting at a 3 earlier in the week. Thought maybe it was just off-season caution, no reason to panic. But after hearing Carroll speak, I'm closer to a 6 now. That's a pretty significant jump. It's not about the boot. It's not even about what he's doing in workouts. It's about the fact that months later, the team still doesn't feel comfortable putting him back out there. The ripple effect this could cause across the defense is huge. Yes, it's only May, and there's still time. We've got June, July, August before the real games start. But this is when you start building chemistry. This is when rotations are figured out, roles are defined, depth is tested. And if Wilkins isn't in the mix, it changes everything. It puts pressure on guys who maybe aren't ready yet. It forces Graham to get creative with formations, to plug holes that weren't supposed to exist. One name that has to come up in all of this is Malcolm Kuntz. He's also been held out of OTAs with what the team says is just precautionary. They expect him to be ready to go soon, but between him and Wilkins, that's 2 major pieces of your defensive front dealing with issues before pads even come. That's not ideal, especially for a team trying to take a leap on defense. So what happens if Wilkins can't go? Who steps up? That's the big question. There's a group of guys that need to rise to the occasion, no question about it. We're talking about young players, recent draft picks, and maybe even a few veterans trying to earn their spot. But let's not kid ourselves. Replacing a guy like Wilkins isn't just plug and play. He's not just a big body. He's a difference maker when healthy, and his absence would be felt in a major way. Let's start with J.J. Peggs. He's a rookie 6th-round pick, and one of those guys who's got the size to potentially step into a bigger role. He's listed at 6'2", 309 pounds, and from what we've seen so far, he's got the kind of frame that can handle the interior grind. But he's raw. The coaches are going to be looking for signs of versatility, which is going to be a theme across this entire defensive tackle group. Pegas is a space eater, yes, but can he play with leverage? Can he anchor? Can he adjust to NFL speed right away? Then there's Tyreek Hemingway, another rookie but taken a bit earlier in the draft. 4th round pick, higher investment, and that usually means the coaching staff sees more immediate potential. Hemingway is built differently than Wilkins. He's more of an end tackle hybrid, a tweener as they say. More athletic, more explosive, but maybe not as stout against the run. If the Raiders want to get creative and use more of these hybrid looks, Hemingway could be part of that plan, but he's not a one-for-one replacement. He's not going to take on double teams the way Wilkins does. Johnny Lomu's another name that's getting some buzz. He showed flashes last season, and the team is reportedly high on his potential. He's a bit lighter than your traditional nose tackle, but he plays with aggression, and he's not afraid to mix it up inside. If he can bulk up a bit, improve his technique, he could be a surprise contributor. The strength and conditioning staff is probably already working on that, telling him, look, we need you to be ready in case Wilkins can't go. But perhaps the most interesting wild card in all of this is Tyree Wilson. Yes, he's technically an edge rusher, a former top 10 pick expected to wreak havoc off the edge. But Wilson has the kind of frame and strength that allows him to kick inside in certain packages. If the Raiders are forced to get creative, you could see Wilson playing a lot more inside than originally planned. Again, not ideal. Not a replacement for Wilkins in the truest sense. But he's going to be part of that solution if the worst case scenario comes true. And then there's Adam Butler. This is the guy, in my opinion, who has to take the biggest leap. The Raiders brought him back on a multi-year deal this offseason for a reason. He's the veteran presence, the experienced DT who understands the scheme and can help stabilize things if Wilkins isn't ready. Ideally, Butler is your DT2 or DT3, but in this scenario, he might have to be the guy. And that means more snaps, more responsibility, and more expectations. He's got the respect of the locker room, and he's shown he can make plays when it counts. But let's not pretend the task wouldn't be enormous. The good news is that the Raiders do have some options. They've got depth and they've got time. But time only helps if guys are progressing. And if Wilkins hits a wall in his recovery, that's when the team might have to look outside. There are still a couple of names out there in free agency that could make sense. Not as direct replacements, but as additions that help the unit as a whole. One name that comes to mind is Jadeveon Clowney. No, he's not a defensive tackle. But in a room full of tweeners, Clowney is the ultimate tweener. He can play end, rush inside, stop the run, and bring experience. Not saying he's the answer, but he could be part of a committee approach. Another potential target is Quinton Jefferson, a familiar name for Raider Nation. He played here in 2021 and has a strong reputation with Max Crosby and other leaders in the locker room. He's not flashy, but he's dependable, and he knows what it takes to play in this scheme. If the Raiders feel like they need a vet to come in and stabilize the group, Jefferson makes a lot of sense. Again, not a Wilkins level impact, but someone who could hold the line while younger players develop. And if the Raiders really start to feel the heat, they could make a call to Baltimore about John Jenkins. Jenkins is a big body, a true nose tackle who was on the Raiders roster last year and knows the system. He's not a long-term fix, but in an emergency, he could be a valuable short-term piece. So that's where we are, waiting, watching, hoping. Christian Wilkins is too important to this defense to rush back. If he's not right, the team has to be smart. But they also need to start preparing for that possibility now, not later. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are swirling around the NFL as rumors emerge regarding a surprising revelation from none other than Pete Carroll, the seasoned head coach known for his keen eye on talent and team dynamics. Sources suggest that Carroll recently expressed genuine shock over the unexpectedly low technical level displayed by Raiders player Shedrick Jackson, a development that could have significant implications for the player's future and the Raiders' strategy. The chatter began when Carroll reportedly commented on Jackson's performance during a recent scouting session or meeting. Known for his candid and straightforward approach, Carroll allegedly did not hold back his surprise at what he perceived as a gap between Jackson's potential and his actual execution on the field. This unexpected critique coming from such a respected figure in football circles has sparked a wave of speculation among fans, analysts, and insiders alike. Shedrick Jackson, a player whose name has been growing in prominence, now finds himself at the center of this brewing storm. While some insiders argue that every player faces growing pains and that Jackson's struggles might be part of a natural developmental curve, Carroll's pointed remark hints at deeper concerns about Jackson's readiness to compete at the highest level. The Raiders, a franchise often praised for their aggressive acquisitions and development of talent, might need to reconsider their investment if these murmurs hold any weight. Adding fuel to the fire is the context in which Carroll made these remarks. Known for building cohesive, technically sound teams, Carroll's appraisal suggests that Jackson's fundamentals might be lacking, or that his performance does not meet the rigorous standards of an NFL-caliber athlete. This could potentially influence how other teams view Jackson, possibly affecting trades, draft prospects, or playing time allocations. On the Raiders' side, this situation presents a challenging narrative. If the rumors about Carroll's comments are true, it places the team in a precarious spot, having to decide whether to double down on coaching and training for Jackson or pivot their strategy entirely. Fans are watching closely, with social media buzzing about possible moves, from benching to seeking alternatives in upcoming drafts or free agency. While no official statements have been released from either Carroll or the Raiders organization, the rumor mill continues to churn. Industry insiders speculate that behind closed doors, coaching staff and management might be engaging in intense discussions about the best path forward for Shedrick Jackson. After all, in a league where performance and precision are paramount, any hint of technical inadequacy can quickly become a decisive factor in a player's career trajectory. Could this be the turning point for Jackson, spurring him to elevate his game to meet the high standards set by veterans like Carroll? Or is this the beginning of a downward spiral, marking a player whose potential may never fully translate to on-field success? Only time will tell, but for now, the buzz around Shedrick Jackson and Pete Carroll's unexpected remarks continues to captivate the football world. Fans, analysts, and rival teams alike remain glued to the unfolding story, eager to see how this intriguing drama develops in the coming weeks. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.